Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Hybrid Ministry Show. Welcome back to my guest bedroom. We've been doing some renovations, and so if you're watching here on YouTube, you see me back with my normal setup as opposed to the room that I've been living in. But either way, today I'm going to be talking about how I avoid burnout with my friend Derry Prenkert. And here's one of the things that you actually need to know is that Derry offers a completely free, all remote, on Zoom cohort that is of fantastic value. I would probably put it anywhere between $500 and $1,000 value, and it is completely free for anyone who's interested in it. And so link down below in the show notes, whether you're listening on YouTube or in a podcast catcher, you need to go in and you need to check it out because they are starting next week at the time of this release. And whether you're listening to this later or not, these cohorts are always rolling around different seasons, fall and spring and winter, so check them out. But my conversation today with Derry, he's a dear friend of mine, and we are going to talk about how he avoided burnout. And I mean, Derry, he brought it. I was like, let's shoot for like 25, 30 minutes. I mean, we went 45, but I think you'll be grateful because it is a fantastic and rich conversation where he walks through his 3-step burnout strategy. So without any further ado, welcome now for the second time to the Hybrid Ministry Podcast, my friend, Derry Prenkert. Well, what's up, everyone? Here I am with my friend Derry, who what were we doing? Like last week, we were like counting it out. We've known each other now like 9 years, I think it is, that's actually like a weird number to say. That makes me feel old, and I don't think of myself as old, but I think I am now. So, Derry, how you doing this morning, bro?
I'm good. You're not old. You're like my youngest brother old. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I can't be, I could be your uncle, but ultimately.
Yeah. So give us like a 30-second flyover, like who are you? Like, and you know, what qualifies you to talk about this topic today of burnout?
I'm a youth pastor at heart that served in traditional youth ministry in a youth pastor role for 26 years, 23 of those at one church, 3 at another. And now I work with ministry leaders as a whole, but really it's all next gen people is where my heart is. And that's what I do through an organization called Standing Stone Ministry and run that in a lot of different formats. And it's all free, confidential, all about coaching, consultation, and care. And why I can talk about this is because I've had incredible victories in it and deep, massive failures when it comes to, I think, avoiding burnout in a lot of places, but also coming face to face with burnout because it sneaks up on us. And so I can speak from both the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, which is an old ABC Wide World of Sports thing. If you've never seen it, watch the YouTube clip. It's amazing.
Well, and I'll just say, for those of you who are like, you know, later on in maybe your youth ministry career and you're trying to create like coaching and cohorts, like Derry is the guy that is throwing a wrench into all of your plans because I'll just plug like the youth ministry leader cohort, which is incredible value, which people would pay typically thousands of dollars to be a part of. You're offering now for somehow free, and I don't know how you're doing it, but I've been a part of it. I've helped like facilitate one. I mean, it's awesome. So yeah, there's your plug, and that's at least a step, right, in this whole like burnout deal.
Absolutely. It's huge. And how we do it, you just said part of it, because there's some amazing people that do it where my payment is friendship. And then there's a group of people and organizations that believe in this stuff. They love the church and they love the next generation, and they are footing the bill for us to do this.
Which is really cool.
That alone brings hope to this youth ministry world. Like, we just sometimes feel like, no, you know, everybody's against us, and it is. There's parts that are a lot against us. There are people that are they just so know the value. They're either paying it forward from their youth ministry experience. They just recognize that the church and the hope of the church is found in this next generation, and so why not invest in the people investing in them? And so, that's how we do it. But also, it's just a reminder to anybody listening to this, because if you're watching this and you're thinking you're burnt out, part of it is I don't make a difference, and nobody sees what I'm doing. No, it's seen.
That's good. Well, so Derry has like kind of like a 3-step sort of framework or little outline, I guess, of what we're going to kind of walk through today. So Derry, take us through like step number 1 of this whole burnout conversation. Where does someone start?
Yeah. I think, it's so hard because burnout comes in so many forms. I mean, I'm just way overworked burnout. There's I'm not fulfilled burnout. There's relational burnout, which I don't think I'm going to be able to hit that one a lot, but that's big, and it's a little bit different. And then there's just like, I'm in the wrong kind of work burnout, so it goes all these different ways. So ultimately I was just thinking, like you said, how do I, and I would say, here's how I either have burnout or in the midst of burnout caught it and recognized and put in practices, not so much to get out of it, to avoid it the next time. Because I have burnout multiple times, and so, and people are like, yeah, you lasted 23 years. So 3 things, and they're not like steps, but just like I guess I'd go principles and then some ways I do it. The first, I think a key to avoiding burnout is self-awareness. I mean, it's just a simple thing. It's self-awareness, because we're all wired in different ways that we will find our fuel, we'll find our exhaustion, we'll find ourselves caught up in our head, and we'll refuel in different ways. And so that's a big one. And I'll give you 3 pieces inside of self-awareness, and you can stop me and ask me along in this. But I would say the first one that I would throw out is your personality and your working genius is what I would throw out. There's profiles out there that help you just learn.
Like who you are, like how you work, how you recharge, all that.
Yeah. And I don't, they're profiles, right? They're not like, I got really tired of the Enneagram when it hit because I was into the DISC profile. Others are Myers-Briggs, and I got annoyed with the Enneagram because people were like, this is the answer to everything. I never forget, I sat in this like millennial group, and a person said, Enneagram is like a color wheel. And I was like, you just basically said this thing can say whatever you want. Like, there's a reality of that. But no, like there is absolutely wiring inside of. So I don't care what it is. If you take it and it resonates with you, pause and say, okay, if I am a personality that comes alive when I'm helping people versus I'm a personality and it's behind the scenes and I don't want credit versus I do want to be out front. Well, then when you're aware in that and you're catching that, you recognize, man, I got to find myself over toward the work that's going to bring life to me. And if I'm living too much over. So, and those profiles help you a lot with that.
Well, and then conversely, right? Like how you rest too, right? In
exactly
that. So even
right.
like I'm a task type person. Like I'm an Enneagram 1. My wife is Enneagram 2, so she likes to help people. So like she recharges a lot through like relationships where like I not quite as much. And so even within our own like marriage and relationship, understanding like a thing that might bring her life might drain me, And so we kind of need to know even how to strike the balance like within that too.
Yeah. And Nick, for those that are married, personality stuff, and I'll talk about the working genius in a second.
Yeah.
Awesome to do with your spouse because, let's be honest, when they're out of whack, if our spouse is not in a good space and they're burning out, it burns us out too. Like, and it's not their fault. It's actually maybe we got to take the responsibility to go, am I aware enough? I'm telling you, man, I've dove into the working genius side a whole lot more. We're getting ready to learn more on some personality profile stuff, my wife and I, to help people. But it makes sense, right? Like the love language talk, you're going to tend to express love in the way you want it. But if that's not somebody's love language, they might not receive it to the level you think they can. And so that it is just big. So personality profile is really good. If you aren't aware of this thing called working genius, it's a lot like if you've ever heard of Clifton Strength Finder. It's a similar thing, but it's a work productivity tool. I wish it was called like working energizing or working joys, because genius can throw you off. The idea is there's these 6 different parts to work, and all of us come alive in 2 parts to it. It might not be step 1. It might be, or step 1 and step 2. It might be step 1 and step 5. So it mixes all around. But we come alive in 2, we can get by in 2, and we die in 2. Meaning there's 2 of them that, like, when we're in it, we're Captain America. I could do it all day. So like if you're a creative person that then loves to track down the creatives, your invention tenacity.
Give us yours. Like what are your talk about a project that you're Captain America in, like you could do all day, and then talk about a type of project that like you don't want to do, or you want to hand off, or you just want to be done because
let me help you with it, even because I think there's that way to do it. There's also just it's every work involves all 6 of these steps. And so it's also an awareness of, if I have to do this from beginning to end, when I'm aware of that, I can do that. But also you're usually working in a team. So there's wonder, which is you love pondering the possibilities. There's invention, where you're give me a blank whiteboard and I come up with ideas. There's discernment, where I'm processing through what ideas have merit, whether there's themes, and just kind of catching what goes on. There's galvanizing, where it's like the cheer everybody, bring everybody together and go, let's go for this. It's the rally cry person. A lot of youth pastors are galvanizing geniuses because they love to rally the group together. It's that like the greatest accomplishment is we're all excited. don't know what we're doing, but we're all, no, but that's galvanizing. Then there's enablement, not the best name for it, but that's where you want to come alongside and help whatever the vision is happen. Also, a ton of youth pastors are enablement geniuses because especially if they last a while, because you're often having to fulfill the mission of the greater church and then come alongside. You're the moment when they go, we're looking for volunteers to help with. You love,
let's ask the youth pastor.
You just go, I would love to.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Let me do this. And then there's tenacity, and that's like the hit the deadline, nail the details stuff, right? So my genius is invention and discernment. Give me a blank whiteboard or a brainstorm session, and I come alive. Because not only like you present, and the second they call it the genius, competency, and your frustration. So my genius is invention and discernment. They are back to back. My competency is wonder, so I don't mind pondering the questions, and galvanizing is my other competency. So I can rally the team together. But I'm at my greatest on service, like semester planning. When we would do that in my team, it was the greatest day in the world because that was our time where we were going to brainstorm. We were going to identify possibilities of what we could do. We were going to try to see how the Holy Spirit would bring together all these ideas we put up on the whiteboard and find the themes and go, there's a series. Here's the scripture we're going to come out of, or here's the scripture we're going to start with, but here's how we can flesh this out for students. Here's this new idea we have on something. I mean, like, you can see me like talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then,
but as someone that is like tenacity, like a whiteboard meeting's great, but I feel like I'm losing a day's worth of work.
Exactly right. Right. So that's the key in this thing is because there's that part for you where your genius is dying when you're in that one spot because you want to get to it. But then there's also your frustration that when you get into that portion. So my assistant for years, best assistant in the world, because she was amazing and she wasn't an assistant. She was like a co-pastor. She just loved the behind the scenes and getting things done. Okay, it's hard. I wish we had a map, but wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing. Remember, that's all the beginning of the work. And I am either good to go or fully alive in that. And then my frustration is actually the enablement piece of being delegated out to me, especially if it's not my idea. I'm kind of like, oh gosh, don't call on me to do it. It sounds so selfish, but
no, I get it.
I'll do it, but it kills me. And then like finish the project. So my big joke I tell people all the time is I'm amazing at starting things, period. But she was enablement tenacity genius. So she's dying in these brainstorm meetings. Yeah. I'm frustrated in part because like, why aren't you excited about this? And she's like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then she's coming back to me and going, give me the details. I'm like, I just gave you the big vision. I don't want to get in your way. Well, that's because I don't want people to get in my way. But we also found ways to work together. So that's team side. Personally, here's why this is so important in Burnout. They've done a ton of study on this thing, like 2 million assessments. And remember, there's 3 areas. There's the place you're a genius where you come alive fully. There's then that frustration, the one where it's like, just get me out of here.
Yeah, you know you hate it, don't want to do it. Yeah.
Then there's your competency where you're actually good at it. People affirm you. You know you're good at it. But the trick is over time, it's not loses its fulfillment. That's where people burn out. Because if you're not aware of that's like my competency space and I'm hitting resistance again and again on that, or I'm living all my tasks for me. I was in a place where I needed to galvanize in the midst of COVID, a team that wasn't all together on stuff and didn't have a ton of trust in me yet.
Yeah, you were pretty new at your role.
I burn out inside. Yeah. I was at a church for 3 years. Remember, I was at the other one for 23 years. And this is not the fault of anyone. In fact, I think the Lord led me toward it. But a piece that happened that if I could go back over again, I would go, who's the galvanizer on my team that I'm going to go to and say, I need you when it comes time to bring us all together. I want to work on our relationship so you can trust me. I can trust you, and I need you to step up and galvanize and help me out, So the awareness in that is huge. And I know we dove into that a little bit more. Anybody who wants to know more about that, I got a certification in facilitation for that. I will be happy to the first 5 people that reach out to me that watch this, I'll do a free assessment and a free debrief for you because there's something to be learned
value too. So we'll link stuff down below in the show notes. You can reach out to Derry for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
let's talk about how you then how do you refuel, right? How do you refuel?
Yeah, this is really good.
In your self-awareness piece of this.
Yeah. And I think the biggest one, and this is just simply being aware, are you an introvert and an extrovert or an ambivert? And I don't even know if that's scientific. I haven't done a lot of study on it. It's just the ultimate question is what really refuels you when you need to unplug, which we'll talk about unplugging in a little bit, but in the moments of unplug, when work needs to just be shut off. What is it that actually refuels you? Not what you do to cope or just zone out, because people are like, oh yeah,
doom scrolling,
video games, for some people, man, it is. I just sitting by myself, or our buddy Josh Griffin, he is an extrovert off the charts. People refuel him. And I remember he loved online gaming. So video games, it wasn't about the video games that refueled him. It was playing, but he loved video games too, but he was playing with others. I don't even know. I'm saying video games. That shows how lame I am in that world. I am a creative in nature. I love like seeing creative and trying to pull themes from it. So movies are a great thing, but I'm also, I love people, but I actually refuel when I'm on my own. And so for me, there's a long season. The dumbest thing I think this would help people. So if that's the reality, I kind of refuel on my own, but creative things, I'll give you 2 moments where I'm most greatly refilled that you go, that's stupid. Why would you do that? One was I would weekly on Thursdays pick a movie that'd been out for about 2 or 3 weeks and go to a local movie theater that I knew it had like daytime matinee times. This was before kids. And I would try to go to the movie. And my greatest accomplishment was when I got to sit in the movie theater all by myself and watch that movie.
You create like a little bingo card of it. Like, how many times do I get to go to this movie by myself?
Yeah. And it was weird. It was like this one, it was just really cool when I would get to that point, because it was just sitting there. It was also a little sense of accomplishment with it. What was really awkward is a lot of old ladies like to go watch movies at that time too. So it often ended up with me and 2 old ladies.
Which who knew, right? But now you do, because that was your goal.
Yeah, and a lot of old ladies really like action movies. That's another thing. So but that was just that to me, like a joke. I mean, my wife would laugh at me. People go, "You don't go to movies by yourself?" I'm like, I do. I could watch them at my house and do the same. But there was something about that. The other one was for my 40th birthday. You and I both are Disney lovers, and I think I helped you fall in love with Disney. I apologize to your bank account for that.
But I need it.
For my 40th birthday, we spent a lot of time going to Disney World. I was going out to California to a DYM event. Janelle said, "Hey, for your birthday, if you're interested, treat yourself to a couple days at Disneyland." And so I did. I flew out early and I spent a full day and then a half day at Disneyland all by myself. Nick, this is so dumb. I was walking through the Magic Kingdom, purposely wearing headphones so nobody would talk to me. And I started crying because I realized it was the first time in a long time where I was just on my own at nobody else's agenda. I didn't have to worry about anybody else's agenda. Now, that's partly because I was in a season where I was leading team. I had little kids. My main role was helping others.
A lot of people vying for your,
and
just
so,
your attention.
So I needed a refuel in a creative space. Like, that's what I love. For me, it's not about the rides. It's the design. It's the creativity. It's the brilliance of a guy like Walt Disney that this thing lives on. And so I got it there. So that's for me how I refuel. That's not going to be the same for you. That's not going to be the same for somebody else that's listening. Another person's like, I need to join a book club because I love reading, but I love talking with people about it. Others, it might, whatever it might be.
I think within that, though, right, like one thing that's really key for youth pastors, I would say, is like try to find that community, or if you do need like people to recharge, like try to find that, but try to find it in like a lane of like a hobby, and not like by being a part of a church small group. You know what I mean? Or like where you're around church people and you still have to sort of like lean back into your role, like find something that truly, genuinely like allows you to separate.
That's good. You even got me just thinking out loud right now of that moment. I'm sure there's many couples that have sat together and said, man, I'm just burnt out by this place and we need to find fellowship. And then the next thought is we need to find fellowship in here because that will make us fall back in love with the place. And that might be true, but it also might be the greatest mistake you could make is actually, no, we need to find community by going and joining a gaming, like board game group, or forming a board game group with people, maybe a couple people from the church, but outside the church. But we make it really clear up front, this is not sponsored by our church whatsoever. Or if you're feeling a level of burnout because you're always leading, what's the thing you can go join that's a group where nobody even knows that you're the leader? Because
you're not
you walk into your church, and I did it. Part of some awesome small groups, but the minute a big theological question came up or a question about the church, even though I wasn't leading the group, where did all the eyes
on
go?
You?
Boom, you know? So yeah, that's right on. Like there's a lot of layers we could take that. How do I refuel? Introvert, extrovert, what brings life to you? What type of seasons you're in? I mean, I just thought about this. I was telling you, part of that Disneyland moment was I needed a space because I was on the demand of so many people. My wife and I just hit this. She's heading down to Florida with a good friend because she's been in 5 years of just just always being there for others.
Yeah.
So even our vacations, she's still on. She's got to be mama.
100%.
And I'm like, babe, you are going to go, and it is treat yourself, So there we go. So that's self-awareness is key. Personality. And then let me give one last one. We can do this one really quick, but it's important. If you've been in ministry for a while, be aware of the seasons that hit extra hard and the seasons that you just come alive in. And if that's the case, then you want to be aware of it. So like we have seasons that will hit literally in the calendar. If I were to talk to somebody who's been in ministry 5 or 6 years or longer and say, tell me some of the toughest times you've gone through, and we were to list out like 15 of them, I guarantee you will notice something, that it hit in a certain month or right after a certain event, or just in a fall time. I was talking with a counselor who works in the same church I worked in. My season was February, March, and I think a lot of youth pastors do that. February and March is like halfway through this year. Students are kind of like in the doldrums of things, especially in where I live. I'm in the Midwest, where the official colors of February and March are brown or gray.
And it's just a long, I've learned too, from a youth ministry standpoint, it's a long stretch of nothing. Like the fall, you get to like come back from summer, but it's a quick, honestly, 2 to 3 month sprint until the holidays.
Yep.
And that's exciting. But then you come back in January and there's really nothing until like, Easter, but that's not for us. That's not for youth pastors.
No, it's not. January is kind of the joy of getting back together, kicking off the year, and then it hits. And I just would love for youth pastors, think about the times where you had to like do an intervention on a suicide, a call to Child Protective Services because of something that came up in the group, or a really weird situation where you're like, oh gosh, that was heavy. And ask yourself, how many times did it fall right in that time? I would like literally tell my team, guys, it's February. I want you to be ready for an extra late night coming up somewhere. We're going to have to sort through something. Now, the counselor that I was working with, he talked about how October was his time, which I love October around here. It's beautiful. For him, the trick is it's like he's in a lot of adult ministry stuff. Groups get kicked off. It's like he's going, and then it's done, and it's just like a crash time. And so he just hits really, really hard. So the fellow youth pastor with me, who was very like contemplative in nature, it was right after summer camp. And there's like this short gap between summer camp and starting for the fall where he would just like struggle and want to quit. So it's different for all of us. And I just would say, when you're aware of that, one, just the awareness alone helps you go, I'm not burning out right now. I'm just in a tough season. Also, maybe this is the time where I need to book a vacation or get away, So there's that. So
when we lived in the Midwest, we were like, we gotta get out of here in January, February, March, especially March, because March, when we lived in Chicago, March was like fake spring. Like it tricks you, and you're like, it's spring now, but like, no, it's not. It's still in the 30s, it's still in the 40s, and it's still very gray. And you're like, oh dang, like it never switches to spring until really like May. And so that's where we were like, we need to. What we would always do, we weren't good at getting in front of it, is during that time, that's when we would book a vacation.
Yeah, right.
And then we'd book it for like September when it's like beautiful. But like,
but the anticipation of that, and that's probably somewhat inside of how do you refuel. I also refuel in the planning of the vacation almost as much as going on it.
Especially if you're a Disney person, you gotta get nerdy about it.
Right. So yeah, that's good. And I'm officially lobbying for a 5th season, and the season's called Blah. It runs from February up until either Easter or spring break. It's one of those two. The mascot's a leprechaun that's angry, kicking a sad groundhog. I've got colors. I've got the general. I mean, like, I think we should do it. Name it that and call it what it is. We already
have it. Like it's not on the calendar technically, but like it's already there for real. So like, consider it done. The club is formed.
There we go.
You have your season.
We did it. Okay, so there we go. That's all. But that's all inside self-aware for me. Is
you got to
know your personality, working genius. Recognize how you refuel, and then pay attention to where the seasons hit. And we didn't hit it, but where do you come alive? And be aware of those times, and make sure you're capitalizing on those times in what you come alive over.
Yeah. Okay. So all self-awareness, like the piece of like burning out, and to your point, like as people in ministry and maybe even families, like you have a lot of responsibility. And so it almost sometimes feels like even selfish to consider, who am I, understanding yourself, where do I come alive, and what do I need, right? And so part of that burnout piece is like being bold enough to declare what you really like need in order to stay healthy. And so
you're totally right.
All that being said, that's step one. What's step two?
And in that, and then I'll go right into step two out of that. Give yourself permission to speak up for yourself with this mantra in your head. A burnout me is not a successful me. And so you go, man, I can't do that. And grit, yeah, dang it, grit yourself through. There's some of us that are being lazy. We're giving this as excuses. We're saying I need more time off, and it's on us. But also recognize like there's a legit breaking point at times that can happen in some of the stuff. And so advocating to say like, hey, I need to schedule a little lighter during this time. I need to. Okay, so with that,
there's nothing wrong with that, which is so good. That leads
great into the next part is recognizing that balance is something you find over time, not in the moment.
Flesh that out.
Yeah, balance gets used a lot. Like, am I in balance?
Work-life balance.
Yeah, work-life balance. Is just like I feel so out of balance, and I was feeling that for so long. And I remember I was sitting in a network, valuable that also helps you avoid burnout. I was sitting in a network, and a guy that had been in a little longer. The topic was balance. He goes, I've just learned balance is a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. I'm never going to get it. And I was like, baloney, that's ridiculous. Now, he unfortunately didn't.
You're like, watch this. I'm going to get balance.
He didn't really flesh it out over time. I'm like, but I started thinking through it, and I was talking them with my mentor, and he said, I agree with him if you're looking at it on a day-by-day basis. The real question is, how do I find balance over time? We're going to probably, like today, my day will be out of balance when it comes to time with my kids because they're at school and it's church tonight and we all head out to our different spaces.
Areas, yeah.
But Saturday, as it sits right now, my daughter has a musical that I'm going to go. 3 days of a musical for a middle school musical. We've learned. Whole family's going Friday. I'm going Saturday. Wife's going Sunday. Now, people that might want to get mad at me, she's like prop crew. I'm only going to see her foot once. So Saturday is a ton of family time, but I'm not going to work at all. That's out of balance, right?
Yeah.
My work home life in Saturday. So the whole idea is, what does it look like over time? And two tools that I would just say I've learned. One was I taught it to myself. The other was a really brilliant man with wonderful calves named Josh Griffin. I was talking to him right at the time he was finishing up at, what's that one church? Oh, Saddleback. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Small church out in California. And he was also starting up DYM. Student leadership conference was running like crazy. He was traveling around and doing stuff. And he had like 4 kids all in like, I got to be on. And I just said, dude, how do you do it? Like how in the world do you work this whole balance of stuff? And he goes, no, not great. And then he said, but what I've learned to do is I'm constantly grading myself in those categories. I'm just constantly giving myself a grade. I stop, I pause, I reflect. So Saddleback. Like, how am I right now? You know what? Camp just finished up A-. Like I've given them my best and I feel like I'm crushing it there. How am I doing on the DYM world? You know what? It's a B-, but the reality is we're in summer and a lot of stuff can go on autopilot there. So that's totally fine. How am I on my own soul? Man, I'm really good. I'm alive. I'm going to give that an A because I got great times with Jesus at camp. He didn't tell me this. I'm making this up, but this would be like, I could see this be like, he didn't tell me these grades, but but then he said, but man, my wife and my kids, I'm at a C-. And so that's now time where I need to shift over there.
There's self-awareness, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
Goes back to that first.
Yep. And he said, and that's the recognition. And I recognize, you know what? I can go ahead and let Saddleback get down to a B-, B- right now. I can continue to.
My job's safe.
Yeah.
Not getting fired.
Yeah. And let me tell you that, like, youth pastor, not every program has to be an A. There are times where it's okay for it to be a C. I know that's hard, and you might have your bosses tell you otherwise. Well, I'm telling you, it's okay. It's going to happen.
We talk about all the time the principle of good enough. And it's like we've been having this conversation with some of our like residents and say, hey, listen, I appreciate how much time you're pouring into message prep, but it's taking away from the other things that we need you to do and that you're really also very good at as well. And so like make this message be, or for the love of all that is good, just use co-leader, which is already like better than anything you and I are going to come up with.
Exactly.
Just use it because like sadly the kids aren't going to remember it. And so fudge so that you can give yourself other places. I love that principle because you got to find that, like you said, you got to find that balance over time.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to.
As you're grading, sometimes it's, this grade's low and I got to get it back up. Other times it's, this grade's low and that's really okay. Like we have misapplied, and I'm going to get it wrong, but that Colossians passage about whatever you do, do it all for the glory of the Lord, that doing it for the glory of the Lord equals 150%. And I absolutely would say, no, that's actually not to the glory of the Lord. You're burning yourself out. And if I give 150% to making an announcement video where I spend 30 hours turning it into like, MCU movie trailer quality, I actually wasn't to the glory of the Lord. That was actually to the glory of me, or to the glory. It was a loss that I could have been spending that time with students, listening to their struggles and praying and So I think that's really important in it. So there's that grading thing. This is the other one, and this one has been huge for me. And we've joked about it. I do have a podcast that's sat dormant forever, and I did a whole episode on this principle. And it's the idea.
We'll link it. What's it 2018 when it
2018,
aired?
2019.
Yeah.
But it is one of my favorite episodes I've ever done, to be really honest, because it just walks through this idea. It's simply walk, sprint, rest. Understanding that I need to have seasons of all three of those in my own life and also in my actual ministry flow. And what do I mean by that? I think most of us live with the idea of it's sprint, rest, more times than not. Or if we're lazy, we do walk and then rest, But what do I mean by sprint? Sprint is when it's all hands on deck. I'm not going to fit inside of the 36, 50 hours or whatever that are expected of me. It's going to be more than that. And it's worth it. Summer camp for me, I recognize that was the time where I got the full group together. We would build vision, and we'd do a mission trip before that and something after it. That was a sprint time, like right around October in our ministry. It was outreach season. Be able to just have our kids grab a hold of evangelism. And so it was worthy of the extra time. And so that was like, that's sprint. And it needed my best efforts, and the ministry needed my best efforts. But then there's also times like where stop and ask, wait, do we just need to walk right now? And this is almost going back to, this is okay if we're at B level or C level here. And in my ministry, December was that time. We would shut down, like December leading into Christmas, we would shut down the ministry pretty much at Christmas. So that was even rest. The only thing I had to do was show up to Christmas Eve. But in December, we recognized, like, man, if we just hand things over to small groups, we're going to crush it. And that takes less planning for us. Like, all we have to do is just make sure we've set up small groups well. And we didn't add, like, I remember we were wanting to add a fall retreat, and we couldn't find it in November. We started to move it to December. And I was like, nope. That we were going to walk in December. We're not going to throw one more thing in. And what's crazy, now recognize this, that is a walk season for me. And then my worship pastor, total sprint season.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
But June and summer camps, almost like a rest season for him, right? So it's different. So being aware of that, looking at your calendar and even like marking it out and just knowing like, hey, if there's a sprint season, sometimes it might be 2 weeks. It might be 6 to 8 weeks. Now, if they're all like 6 to 8 weeks and you don't see it, but this is the idea. Like, I think we get into this idea, sprint, rest, sprint, rest, sprint, rest. I don't think we're resting. We're sprinting and then we're crashing. Rest actually involves rejuvenating. And then if we're sprinting and then we say we're resting, but all we're doing is walking, we're not taking any time off, then we're in trouble. So finding those things where those come into play and remembering like the seasons. So if it's a season where it gets really, really rough, I might personally need to get the ministry at a walk pace so I can hand it over and I can truly rest and go take a vacation. Honestly, sometimes during a sprint season in the ministry, if you get there long enough, you might actually be able to, again, rest some. I got to the point where I planned some of my vacations over that October time because I had residents that would run with the outreach. They got the vision and we'd get away. And it was really, really good for me. So again, that grading system and that walk, sprint, rest system were huge and have been huge for me in helping learn to avoid burnout.
So then step one, be self-aware. Step two, aim for balance over time using those two things, walk, sprint, rest, and the grading system. Yeah. So then your third one, how do you manage and avoid burnout? Yeah. What's this last piece here?
Yeah, and this is where the rest part is key, is finding my true unplug. That's the way the principle is the idea of find my true unplug. Rest is unplugging, especially, let's just look at it from ministry, unplugging from the church and the ministry so that I can truly rest, or in that rest, invest into my soul, my family. And two things for me that are big, and I'll be honest, the one I'm learning more now over the last couple years that I didn't do well in my ministry life, and that's Sabbath, understanding the principle of Sabbath. If you've not read or listened to anything from John Mark Comer on just the idea of the ruthless elimination of hurry and the difference between a day off and Sabbath, there's some great principles in there to hit. And what it means to truly just stop and find joy in the day. I've been rediscovering that, dude, and it's wild. And that's a lot more for me that I need that with the recognition of my family. But the one that people would ask me all the time, how'd you last 23 years at one church? And I'd say all the time, this is not the reason, but it's the number one thing that I think gets missed so often. And it was huge for us, is vacationing. We are in a small town at a very large church that just goes, I loved and still love youth ministry. And so I can't stop thinking about it. It's on my mind all the time, everywhere I'm going. And so the ability to truly unplug from the church, I needed to get away. And so my wife and I,
because you can't just do it in town, because the church is such a big component of that area. Yeah,
we would literally have to go on dates if we wanted to like get away. We would go like 2 towns over just so we wouldn't run into people. And so the idea of a prolonged time to truly get away, to go on vacation. I know some people do staycations. Didn't work for us because my mind was too on. And so getting and traveling somewhere, and we got pretty dedicated, and it was huge. It became significant before kids. We went 6 years without kids, and we had 2 significant vacations a year most of the time. And some people would go like, I can't afford it. Well, we found ways to do.
That's I was going to ask that. Like, youth pastors notoriously, I can't do it. I don't have money. Like, How do you do it?
Yeah, I'll say there's 2 things. One would be you find creative ways. You know, I'm fortunate my parents had a cabin up in Michigan that we would go to, and that was a much cheaper vacation. But Dave Ramsey would get mad at me for this, but I say, I think you got more money than you realize. It's just where you spending money. And so we committed to run our cars into the ground and not like do a new lease. We dropped a lot of subscriptions other people would have. Because we said, man, this is where the money goes. But this is my Dave Ramseyism. I so believe in this. I would have even risked debt in that area to go on a vacation, because I don't think this money we're spending on vacations is spending, it's investing.
Yeah, that's good.
And so Disney, you and I have talked about, Disney became our thing. Well, there's not a way to do Disney cheap. There's a way to save money on Disney if you learn how to do it. And so we did. We found ways to do that. But what we did with that, there was a couple key things we learned over time. One was, Janelle would say it all the time. First, that's my wife, by the way. She would first say, when it was just the 2 of us, it's like, that's the one time where I have you. Like I have you. Like you're totally there and present with us. And it's not like she was saying you're a terrible husband who never does, but I know you love the ministry, and I love the ministry too. She worked at the church as well most of the time. And so that was so significant, but also memories that have been built. With my kids, we sit around the table a lot of times and we just do share a favorite family memory. Do you know how many of them are tied around that one time at Disney when my youngest, who would always walk into the house after swimming in our backyard and just pull his shorts down, and like, you know, so we were like done in the wave pool, we're going to go grab lunch, and we just look over and he's like walking naked in the middle of a water park at Disney, because, you know, we're like all laughing and remember, like, just the memories, the piece of that is so key. But this is the other part, and a key rule we did. We set a 30-minute, 30-mile rule. Where, because we were both working the church, it was like, once we get to a certain point, we don't talk church at all. And we kind of got really belligerent with it, where it was like, we aren't even going to talk about our friends who go to the church. Because we were just so enveloped in it. It was like just such a part of, like, we both worked there. Yeah. We loved it. Yeah. But also, it drove us nuts at times.
I've tried that too. Like, I tried implementing that, and it's hard, bro. Like, it's really difficult to do, and I actually failed a lot at it.
Yeah, and we've been able to she's great at holding me accountable to it in a loving way, but also there were moments I needed it, and so we would stick to it, and we didn't, like, you know, when we'd fail, we'd go, okay, tomorrow we pick back up again. But what that did would often lead to some really awkward, I don't know what to talk about time, and then on the other end, it would lead to, I wouldn't call it like deep, rich, like all of a sudden, you know, we're bearing our souls to the Lord speaking new vision to us. I mean, sometimes it was, but sometimes it was just, we just got to like talk about random things from our childhood that we never knew before, because we needed to find a topic to talk about. And we just like watched some really, really stupid videos together because we weren't sure what to do, and laughed a ton. And so things like just other topics and other things and zeroing in.
That's so good.
Been enormous for us.
Yeah. I think, like, listen, if you're watching, listening, maybe for some of you, like, this is your next step. Like, plan a vacation. Yep. Right? I know you might not feel like you have money, the means, whatever, but like, you have vacation time. And one of the things you said on a podcast years ago, that resonated deeply with me is don't leave any vacation days on the table.
I'm so glad you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah, because like
Explain
here's
it.
the thing.
Explain it.
What I now tell people is like if you get 2 weeks of vacation, you are being hired. Like in America, we stink at this first of all, but like you're being hired to work 50 weeks out of 52 weeks.
Yes.
So if you work 51 weeks because you only take 1 week off, you gave your church a free week of your work, and that's not fair to you, and they're taking advantage of it. And nobody is going to say anything. Like if you have a great manager who's pushing you to do that, that's fantastic, but that's typically the exception, not the rule. And so if you get 50, if you get 2 weeks of vacation, you better only work 50 of them. And even if even if you said do a staycation, don't go anywhere, but like don't go to the office. Like the job will get done without you. Because the other thing that I hate to break it to you is one day you're going to leave because you're going to resign, you're going to retire, you're going to die, and they will figure out what to do with that position. But you will never be able to be the husband to your wife or the wife to your husband or the father to your children or any of those other relationships. Like you uniquely can only invest in those places. And so don't leave days on the table.
Dude, thank you. Like you're right on. That's so key. I would just love people to reflect. How are you at a church where when you do your all staff and you come together and you go through and you just celebrate everybody that worked extra hard, right? And everybody cheers. Why doesn't a church ever go, hey, it's the end of the year, we just want to celebrate the following people that used up every one of their vacation days?
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. But
no,
actually, they'd be smart. What you're saying is true, but the reverse is true as well. If I haven't taken that time to unplug, that 51st week and probably the 49th, 48th, and 47th aren't even going to be the best versions of me.
Yeah, they suffer a little bit.
Like you're actually making it suffer because we could go forever in this. When you're away, you have to delegate. So you now are living out the Ephesians 4 principle that you got to equip people for ministry.
Yeah.
And then also you're reminded, oh, I love this place, but they don't need me. Nothing fell apart. And so now you get to do it out of joy, not out of obligation.
Absolutely.
And then let me give one more on top of this. This is what people are doing that are listening to this right now. I've really sucked at this. I really need to do it. And then if their vacation recycles in December, or mine always recycled in June, they're like, I'm going to do that. But then there's a real problem you've got probably where you're moving toward burnout. If you find yourself every year when it's about time to recycle, that you have to all of a sudden cash in all your vacation days or you lose them. And so you're saying, oh, no, I take all my days off. But what you do is not spread them out well. Go back to the walk, sprint, and rest. Look at that. Plan ahead, block out where the times are, find out what works for you, and recognize that. I got so sick in the team I was leading that I put my money where my mouth is on this, where I would say, how many vacation days are you at? And like, I'd celebrate it, but I'd also, our vacation time would recycle in June and we had till August to use it. Well, that was all our summer camp season, went right into the fall break. And I would have
you can't
gone in between camp and fall. And I was like, listen, I believe in this so much, we're going to figure it out. But next year, please.
Yeah, do something in March, bro.
Think through, because this isn't good for you. So there's, like, I would just say that's really, really important to think through with it all. And again, find your true unplug. Nick and I love Disney. That might be the worst place for you to go do an unplug. And quite honestly, I'm not doing it much now because my oldest son, he's too cool for it. We've made the shift over to national parks because our kids can walk. And my word, man, like, I'm exhausted, but God is alive in the beauty of it. So find your unplug.
Well, and I would say for us, like, the reason we like it is because it keeps us so busy. We don't really have time to sit around and like talk about work. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the reasons that we like Disney so much is, like you said, like, it's just our family. It's just us, like, trying to accomplish the thing and like with all, trying to get the schedules and everything locked in. Yeah.
Your boys are at a spot where like you get to see. There's nothing quite like seeing your kids overwhelmed with joy. Yeah.
So true.
I'm getting flooded with even great memories right now.
Yeah.
Of some times with that. Yeah, man. I love it.
Man, Derry, you crushed it. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
People wanna do some of the stuff you got offering, like plug it up here real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah, still working on the best way. I don't have a great corporate master plan in this all, but I would say the first thing to check out from a website is ymlcohort.com. That's Y as in yodel, M as in Mary, L as in ladle. I don't know.
Or youth cohort. Ministry leader.
Yeah, youth ministry leader cohort.com. That's something we're doing that Nick talked about. And we run them in winter, spring, and in the fall. And they're 10 weeks long. Toying around with maybe a summer one. I don't know. But check that out. But even if it's like in the middle where there's not one, there's an interest form you can fill out there. always reach out to me anywhere on social. Like I offered that Working Genius thing. It's just at Derry Prenkert. So DERRYPRENKERT. Find me. I'm not on.
That's okay. People aren't finding people on TikTok anyway.
Yeah,
They're
it's
just
hard to
watching
find.
funny videos.
I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook the most. And so find me there. And if you don't like anything, go post it over on X. And I won't read it.
There you go. Love it, man. Hey, thank you so much for investing in youth leaders in this way. And
thank you, Nick. Thanks for your investment, man. I love what you're doing.
Thanks, dude. All right. Hey, guys. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.